Friday.
Friday, and it's raining, so we'll get there.
I've got my PT t-shirt on. Look at that.
Mate, you're on brand. Tanya's got the branded background, and I've just got a load of grass. So look,
it was this or my washing drying behind me.
There's us thinking we thought you might be in some Spanish villa or something in real life.
If only. Oh.
Well, look, thank you for coming along and giving up some of your time for us, Tanya, to come and kind of share your story and journey. I know we've known each other and we've worked with you for a little while now, so I was keen to twist your arm to come along and do one of these. So appreciate you doing it, because I think you guys have got a fascinating story to kind of share of the journey you've been on, and I think sort of where you're trying to take the organisation as well. So if I kind of hand over to Chad and he can ask the first question, and then we can get cracking.
Thanks, Carl. The opening question has to be, what is Iken? Talk us about what the product is. What is the proposition to the market of the business of Iken?
Right, what Iken is it's a knowledge management platform. Okay, right. So what that is, it's a collaboration tool. So you've got your documents, your emails, you've got relevant dates, so if you think about project management and case management and your contacts and workflows management, reporting suites, court bundling, if that's your thing. So it's a huge suite of tools. So anything that you need to run a business, it's got time recording built in. There's loads of different lovely technology in there, built by very smart people, not by me, but I'm many things, but a developer is not one of them. Okay. The last thing I coded was CFAX, so that's going back a long time. Okay.
And what role do you do in the business, Tanya, just for people for the first time?
Right. At my current role, I've had many, but my current role is I'm chief exec. So yeah, it's been a long journey, but yeah, I've been chief exec for a few years now. So
cool. So I guess what would be really interesting to hear is, obviously, yeah, like you mentioned, you've been at Iken for a little while. So I guess sort of as a tech business based in Bristol, I guess it'd be really interesting just to hear the story and the journey you guys have been on to get to where you are at the moment.
Well, Iken was founded back in the 90s. So I was chatting to somebody else and they were like, blimey, that's like geriatric. That's a geriatric company in the history of Bristol tech. And I went, oh, great, thanks. I'm not that blooming old. So yeah, we've been around for a really long time. But what that means is that we've got a richness and a depth, and we work mainly in the sort of public sector. So we've got lots of councils and police departments and things like that use our software. So yes, it's we've been around a long time.
So in terms of then sort of where you were, so I guess sort of geriatric's unfair, isn't it? Let's call it one of the original founding tech companies in Bristol. Sort of, how have you grown? How have you scaled? And that'll be interesting, because obviously, I mean, lots of companies, if you'd like it, so if they make it through the first year, that's great. If they make it then past 3 years, I mean, what is it, 60? I think it's still something like 60% of companies fail in their first 3 years because they run out of money. So you guys been around sort of 30 years are clearly doing something right. So I guess that'd be really good just to hear sort of how you've done that, how you navigated that, and then you guys have been through sort of a couple of challenging markets in terms of sort of the different things that have happened. So I guess that would be fascinating to hear how you've done that.
So yeah, I joined back in 2004 and we were starting to take on some larger clients by then. So they grew by taking on the clients that sort of the big boys, the Civicas and so on, didn't really want, they didn't want a 5 or 6 user system. So we started hoovering up some of those smaller authorities, smaller councils, and sort of very much grew through referrals. Because once you start to work with the public sector, you can start building your reputation there. So that's really how we've grown, through word of mouth and a great product. And so I joined in 2004, and it was kind of the fridge was right next to the servers, you know, that was the cooling system. It was that kind of vibe. We did the washing up in the bathroom sinks. So it was pretty early days, but, you know, they weren't in their own front room anymore. So that was the first office. And then, you know, our implementation team and our installers were kind of the development people. And then we sort of got some project managers. And from there, you know, we've really grown as a business. So when I joined, there was about 8 of us. We're now at 48. So not huge, but, you know, it's that steady organic growth that it kind of gets a bad reputation in Bristol for having that steady organic growth. You know, most people want to go big and they want to go big quickly. But we've never wanted to take people on that we can't afford to keep for, you know, and that's always been, the ethos of the founder was you've got to have at least 6 months running costs within the bank account at any one day in case you don't have any more money coming in. And I think, you know, we've held on to that ethos. It's just that bank account needs to get bigger to hold on to that, and it fluctuates, you know. So that's been really interesting, and we've really grown a lot more professional. You know, our devs in the early days, like most sort of startups, the devs do the testing. That's never great, you know. So you get and they do your IT, which is even worse. You know, there was lots of half-finished server builds. There was lots of, you know, the back of the servers always looked terrible. So it was the true spirit of everybody did a little bit of everything. And then as you grow, you become a lot more professional and you start putting some good frameworks in place. So one of my first projects was to do investors and people and an office move. So that was always good fun. And then you sort of start looking at sort of good sort of information security standards, and that tends to support your next level of growth. So it's about having the good framework and good governance in place to be able to grow organically and getting good people in. You know, our projects team are brilliant, the developers, the testers, we've got an in-house designer, you know, so it all starts to grow out. And then you've got your sales, you know, we do sales and marketing internally, we do everything ourselves basically, which is really, really interesting and challenging at times. And it means that there's quite a few of us that have lost our areas of speciality and you become a generalist. You know, you could be having a GDPR confidentiality discussion one minute and should we use a low code platform or do we want to go and do this, you know, in the very next meeting, and you're like, oh my word, what hat have I got on right now? And then you've got some personnel issues. So, you know, we still kind of keep that small company mindset because we're not huge, but we're bigger than some of the other sort of tech companies here. And yeah, like I say, we do everything in-house. So having the salespeople near the developers is always, you know, that's a culture shock for quite a lot of people. Well, in the days when we were in the office, put it that way. So yeah.
That's interesting. And for me, we had we did a podcast yesterday actually with an organization that have set up and scaled quite rapidly. And I'm very interested, you touched on it there slightly about values. And how did you go about doing that? Was it sort of bottom up, you talked to the team, you know, when you were setting sort of, right, we've got to think about the company culture, right? Because as you grow, culture becomes really important. But I'm suggesting that perhaps it does change as you grow. So how did you mentioned you touched on that part of that sort of project of nailing that down. How did you go about doing that? Or how did you approach it?
Our values haven't changed a lot because we tend to, we're not a quirky company, but we are a company full of individuals that maybe aren't quite as normal as some other people. You know, I think that's the nicest way I can say it. So well, there's a lot of like-minded souls in there. So a lot of rebels and you know, hippies and, you know, lots of different rebels and hippies. That's who we are basically. But we outsourced that a long time ago, back when Elizabeth, who was our co-founder along with Andrew, we outsourced that to a bath company called The House to do a values thing as we were starting that first set of growth. You know, when you go from about 10 people to 25, that tends to be sort of quite a culture shock, and you're trying to figure out who you are as a company and, you know, what drives you and what we should all be working towards. And we thought, right, okay, what we've got to do, if we're going to do this, we've got to live by these. So our company values, and they've been around now for over 15 years, I would say, you know, so that's pretty good. So brave, and that's just stepping out of your comfort zone, doing something that scares you. You know, nobody likes doing some of those phone calls. Networking for some people is just hell on earth, but it's good personal development. So brave, inquisitive. If you're not curious and you work in tech, then get out. I'm sorry, you know, it's just if you don't ask questions, you've got no business working in technology. So brave, inquisitive. The other one that goes really alongside that is tenacious. You know, you've got to stick through that difficult times. You've got to try and find those answers. You might not know everything, but go with what you've got. And then warm-hearted. You know, we are fuzzy. You know, we do really care about our people. We really, really embody those. So we sort of did our vision and our values. So the vision at the time, and it sounds completely bonkers now, but we were taking on our biggest client at the time, which was based in Birmingham. And our founders were rebels and hippies. So, you know, our vision at that point was a long march to freedom from Birmingham to Burma, you know, sort of taking Iken everywhere. Now, you know, Burma doesn't even exist anymore. So that vision didn't. And then I thought maybe that's too small company-ish. So we've redone the vision a few times, you know, since then, to sort of get it a little bit more, you know, connecting people anywhere, anyhow, anytime type of thing, you know. So it's about evolving as a company, but holding on to those values. So whether your goals change as an organization, I think if you recruit into your values and you live by them, then that ultimately makes you a better company and makes a nice place to work. You hold on to people and you grow them. And then, you know, some people stay and some people, they're at the beginnings of their career and you've got to let them fly off, you know, but they're then a brand ambassador. So, you know, it's win-win really.
And I think that's the one thing I've noticed when I mean working with you guys, everybody works for you, loves it, and everyone that even just interviews with you guys sort of says it's such a unique experience, and kind of there's not like many companies that we ever speak to in a good way. And then so I guess that's one of the things I was intrigued, because it's all well and good. I mean, I speak to lots of people doing this job, and similarly to you, people that are sort of towards the top of a tree, and they're very good at it, talking about the company values, the culture, and all of this good stuff, and it sounds amazing. And then as you kind of filter through a company, you start hearing some very different stories from people on the shop floor, shall we say. And I think one of the things I was keen just to know from you is, how do you communicate that through everybody, and how do you get everybody from sort of entry level grad roles right through to your sort of your board, if you'd like, to really embody and have those values and operate within that way, and that everybody believes it, if you'd like? I mean, that would be really interested to your take on that.
We recruit into them, so people know what they're getting into. You know, I think we're quite, when we post a job out there, or if people come to an interview, it's kind of, we ask them as sort of that sort of second interview, how they would display those values in their day-to-day lives. So we're kind of filtering out the people that might be a mismatch, or the people that would feel really uncomfortable in an environment where this is actually really open. And we respect that as well, as that we're not a company for everyone. You know, it's kind of some people that, you know, I think the people that have really struggled with us at different points have been those ones that are very rigid. And this is, I fit inside this little box, like my little Zoom box here. And and I can't leave that box. I can't stretch my arms out, and, you know, I've got to, so the rigidity doesn't really work for us. We're not that kind of business. So we recruit those, we put them, you know, the employee development process, we get them to sort of explain how they're demonstrating those values. We try to challenge people on them if they're not being, you know, one or another. I mean, you know what, we are sort of great sense of humor. It gets a little bit close to the bone sometimes, and then we're like, right, we've got to watch we've got to watch here, we're going over that warm-hearted line, we're just being dickheads right now. You know, it's kind of,
it's got to be the title of the podcast,
too far.
Dickheads. I think that's brilliant.
You know, I mean, Scotland qualified in the football for the first time since 1998, and I got about 20 minutes of happiness in that, and then the ribbing started. You know, I was like, I've waited 22 years for this, guys. Can you not just give me one day of joy?
Good though. That is good. And I suppose one of the other things, just listening to what you were talking about just before the last question, was you spoke about kind of doing everything organically and almost like, I suppose, sort of bootstrapping the growth. And you look at a lot of tech firms out there, and even if you start up a tech firm, you want to get your pitch deck, you want to go and get your angel and your seed investors, and then you want to go and get your Series A, your Series B. And I think a lot of people, that's how they feel like they should determine their success when running a tech business. But I guess I would just be intrigued to sort of know sort of the reason why you've taken the approach to kind of grow the way you have. And have you ever considered sort of, if you'd like, going out to raise and sort of maybe sort of supercharging things if that were to do it? And what's your mindset as the CEO of a tech business is to, because I'm sure you must look at your competitors and other people in the ecosystem in Bristol, sort of every other day there seems to be some news coming out about this company's raised and this company's raised. So I suppose where's your thoughts around that, Tanya?
Well, you know, we're, as I said, quite an unusual company, and we're a company full of control freaks. So we like to be masters of our own destiny, okay? So the fewer shareholders that have an input into decision making, the better it is for us. And also is that we're actually all really well aligned to what we're trying to achieve. You know, we don't need that world domination. We really like being part of the Bristol eco-culture. We really like providing tech jobs and the supporting infrastructure here in Bristol. We like, you know, especially in the light of Brexit and GDPR and all of those other things, you know, we keep our sort of data chain, if you like, as small as humanly possible. And that's how we build trust with our client base, who are incredibly sensitive to those things. So we go as quickly as we can. Most of, as you know, we talked earlier, most of our business at the moment is on premise, but we are transitioning into our cloud offering, and you know, we're onboarding more and more clients, you know, onto that platform. And that's really the future growth of the company. But again, it's about having that trust and that brand, and you know, it's just not in our ethos. We don't need world domination. We just want to be the best we can be, working with the type of clients that we want to work with. You know, you don't have to, you know, growth is brilliant, but steady growth looks really good in tenders as well. It's like, you know, you don't have that huge income of capital that you then burn through, and then you've got to go through that raising again. It's kind of like, we've got X amount of money. That's all we've got, unless we onboard loads of new clients. And even then it drips in month by month. You can't draw all of that in at any given time. So it's about, what can we do with this? So we always try to live within our means. And I think, you know, for me, that's how I sleep at night. You know, I'm not gambling other people's mortgages on our decisions. And I think that's really nice. It's one of the reasons that we hold on to our staff, because it's really quite steady. You know, it's maybe not the most exciting times, but it also allows that stability, and it's a safe and steady way to grow. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know, because you can crash and burn after 2 years, as you say. You know, a lot of people want to sell, and that's good, but you know, we're really happy doing what we do. It kind of defines who we are as people. So unless you're in a rush to sell, then there's no need to go out and get loads of capital, basically.
So talking about crashing and burning, then how have you managed to navigate through the years as a business? And you know, because we do see companies folding, being bought out, you know, or having massive problems. Is it a fairly agile mindset in terms of the way that you guys operate, or is it actually part of the fact you're working with the public sector? I mean, I guess that's, you know, it's a fairly steady environment to be, you know, as a customer base. But I guess I'm just trying to, is it not? Budget, no budget. But I think, you know, has Iken, over the years since you've been there, have you seen the business pivot quite a lot, or we've gone this way and then we've switched that way? You've been fairly flexible in that approach?
We're really flexible with that approach because, again, you don't always, what you know on any given day, don't you? So an opportunity, a conversation, an event you go to sparks lots of other conversations. We might do a piece of development over here that then works in loads of different areas. So we're trying to, we do stay really open-minded. We obviously we plan stuff, but that plan is as good as the hour you write it. That's what I've always learned, is that it's kind of, and then that's where that inner resilience comes from. It is that adaptability. It's being able to think on your feet and go, well, this didn't happen the way we expected, so what are we going to do about that? So yeah, you just have to be really quite agile. Agile's a really sort of overused term a lot of the times, but there's no other way to describe sort of how you run a business. If you're not reacting to any set of givens, sometimes that actually you'll just sail through that storm, that safe harbor is on the other side and you just have to hold your nerve. And the other time is you're actually planning longer term and going, right, this is a dip right now, but ultimately in 2 years' time this is going to pay dividends. So it's trying to plan the risk and reward with all of the uncertainty that comes along, really. And that's what makes it fun.
That's good. And you mentioned the word agile then, so I suppose kind of leads nicely on to the next question. You mentioned it a minute ago about sort of the SaaS offering, really. And I guess I'd be keen to know sort of where that kind of shift came from, if you'd like to go, right, now's the time to kind of start having this software as a service, cloud offering. And I guess, and again, I'm only assuming here, Tanya, so tell me if I'm wrong, but you kind of get a business that's probably been operating with an on-prem solution, probably works in a very different way to where you'd probably expect an agile SaaS business to be operating. And I guess, how are you navigating that transition? And I guess what was the catalyst to go, right, now is the right time to pull the trigger on that?
The right time to pull the trigger on that was when the developer tools came out properly for some of the bigger platforms. So the Microsoft tools, you needed to have enough of those that our product would interact properly with Word and with Outlook and SharePoint and all of those other things. And I think the technology being around, but the developer tools for the interactions were sort of in their infancy. So until some of those sort of interoperability elements came together, then that was, and again, you've got to do it almost in alignment with your clients, so you have to understand where your clients are on their digital transformation journeys and what their risk appetites are as well. And that has really changed over the last 2 years. And again, you always go into a major development project thinking, I always add X number of time on to the time frame I'm told it'll be ready by Christmas. Yeah, Christmas, what year would that be? Type of thing. So, and you don't know what, and it's exploding and it's exciting, and you're sort of trying to do stuff in tandem. So that's really interesting. And I think we've made it really difficult for ourselves because, well, not difficult, it's really good. So we've done full scale Microsoft compatibility and full scale Google compatibility. And we've done those simultaneously while still developing our desktop product. So, we've got all of it going on, and we're building sort of partnerships and APIs, and all of that kind of stuff. So it's a brilliant time. And then I look at it and I go, that's why things are taking longer, because we're doing it all. It's kind of, but it's great, so the developers have never been happier because they're doing so much, so we've got full stack developers, we've got front end, we've got middleware, we've got it all going on. So it's really good fun. But yeah, there's been a lot of learning, shall we say.
Are you suggesting you're juggling quite a lot of balls here?
No, I'm just saying,
are you spinning? Is the organization spinning a lot of plates?
Every organization is spinning a lot of plates. Okay? There's we just are open about it, and it's kind of it's how you sustain that long-term growth. You've got to keep everything going, and you do it in managed chunks. And that's where the agile methodology, going back to Carl's point earlier, really fits in, because you're doing stuff in sort of 2-week chunks. So it doesn't feel overwhelming. It's kind of like, out of this lot, what have we managed to do? What problems did we run into? What barriers? have we got to put that on hold? Do we need to go and do more research? What have we broken? You know, I'm not allowed to use the word broken in the office because everybody gets really angry with me. But to me, it's either working or it's broken. I'm a very simple soul.
So I've got a question around you as the CEO of Iken.
Okay.
So what makes a good CEO?
I think you've got to love what you do. You've got to love the business. You've really got to buy into what you're trying to achieve. You've got to have that attention to detail and that longer term vision. You know, you just have to have a lot of determination and belief, you know, and I think that a lot of people lose faith halfway through and think, oh, we're never going to get through it. We're never going to get through it. And I always have a mantra that it will be fine. You know, no matter how bad today is, ultimately it's going to be fine, you know.
That makes sense. And I guess just kind of carrying on Chad's line of questioning then, obviously kind of CEO of a tech business. I guess what's the journey you've been on personally to get to where you've got to? Because there's lots of people out there that would love to end up in the role you're in. There is a massive push to see more females coming into the world of tech, and there aren't enough females at C-suite, let alone at C-suite within tech businesses. So I guess I'd be really keen, and I think the more we can do as an industry to shine light on that, I think the better it is. But I guess it'd be really good to hear your journey, your story, the good, the bad, sort of on the career path you've taken to get to where you've got to, and whether you think, it was interesting, we had Helen from TekCurious, and she sort of said, and her views were really interesting on it. So I won't taint your views by telling you what she said, but I guess I'd be really intrigued to get your opinion on all of that, if that's all right.
I think it's like anyone else, you know. I think, you know, the equality and diversity question is huge, you know, and I think it's not only women in tech, it's disability in tech, it's, you know, female developers. There's so many male testers, you know. It's kind of, it's huge. It's a huge area, and I think we're only starting to understand and explore it properly now, and about having open conversations. But I would say to anyone that's thinking of trying to get to, you know, to a senior level within a company, is that it doesn't happen overnight. You know, you actually really, really, really have to work hard, you know. And I'm a grafter, and I think I might be, you know, I think everyone that gets to a senior level, you know, we don't really switch off. It's not really in your nature, because you're always thinking about an idea, or you watch something, or something prompts an idea and you think, oh, and you sort of either make a sticky note or a voice recording or something, I need to remember that, or I'll, you know, so you're just absorbing things. But work hard and do as many different jobs. You know, I think that's what people don't always realize, is get as much experience in as broad a variety of things as you can, because ultimately you're going to take snippets. You know, I've done stints in marketing, I've worked in a university, I've worked in retail, I've worked in events, I've been a PA, I've been a project manager, I've done you know, I've done a lot of different things. So that's what I mean, is I'm a massive generalist. You know, I no longer have a speciality skill, you know, other than I can throw a good party now and again. You know, that's probably my best skill. But you know, and I'm confident about decisions. You know, I know what's right and what's wrong. And I think unless you start speaking up, unless you start asking for that job, or if you're within an organization that is lucky to be quite small and agile, then you start inventing job titles. You know, you put a business case. That's what I used to do at Iken. I said, we don't have this job. I think that's a really good job. We need a client delivery manager because we've got this problem. Somebody needs to own this. And, you know, so you write the job spec, you go and you make your pitch. And what's the worst that's going to happen? The worst that happens is somebody says no. The best that happens is you get a promotion. And, you know, so ask the question. What's the worst that can possibly happen? Nothing.
Do you fear failure much? How do you deal with failure? Because obviously, things like you say, what's the worst can happen, right? You know, it's not going to work. How as a CEO or someone that's gone through your career, how do you respond to that, or how have you responded to it?
I think you know, age helps you deal with failure. You know, because you've got benchmarks of failure. Was it as bad as when that happened? You know, I call them benchmarks of awfulness. You know, it's kind of, was it as bad as this? You know, so you can talk your way out of disasterizing something, but it's like anyone else. The first time that something terrible happens, or the first major disappointment, or the first time that you disappoint yourself, you know, for me, the worst is if I don't feel as though I tried hard enough. If I don't feel as, you know, if there was something in of my control that I didn't do, I take that personally because it's my fault. If things like COVID come along, nobody could really foresee that, and you do the best you can. And, you know, it'll be 2 years' time before we can really reflect and stop reacting to different things and go, actually, that's going to be a really good strategy to put in for the future. You know, so it's about, you know, you don't know what you don't know. You just have to go on the facts you have sometimes on any given day. So I deal with failure in 2 ways. Sometimes I have to have a little bit of a rant or a cry. Sometimes I'll do a little bit of retail therapy. Sometimes I'll go out for a run, you know, but that's a day, that's a rare day in the rain, you know. Sometimes I'll just sort of ask myself why I've got such an emotional response to it. And if I've got an emotional response to it, it's because I could have done something better. And that's where you learn, and that's where you grow, and that's where you sort of go, actually, I should have done this. Or if I hadn't said that, then those set of circumstances would be altered. So it's just about accepting responsibility. You know, as CEO, that's ultimately what your job is. We messed up. So therefore I messed up. So we're not going to do that again. You know?
Great advice and some great points in there. I think lots of people get some good takeaways from that. And then I suppose, sort of as we're coming nearer to the end, I guess what's kind of next for Iken? Then you've spoken about sort of launching the SaaS product, but I guess what's on the runway for the next sort of 12, 18, 24 months, and I guess where are you pointing the ship in the direction of?
So our growth plans are all based within our existing client base. So we normally work with a lot of legal departments, but we're working with HR teams, governance teams, adult social care. So our growth trajectory is based on more and more sort of enterprise level sort of use of our product, because it can add value in so many different ways. So that's ultimately, so just doing more of what we do, understanding our clients better. I think every organization could do that, you know, and we've really learned so much this year. And we've learned sometimes that an online way of communicating is much better than those face-to-face. You know, that they're costly, they burn people out, but I love that, you know, personal contact. But these events are bite-sized and our clients prefer those.
That's good. And would you say, I was going to say my next question, but you kind of answered it, what's your biggest takeaway been from the last sort of 9 months of fun we've all had as sort of a CEO of a business?
It's trying to keep the energy levels. It's trying to keep those ideas. So I've spent the last 2 days with our office manager ordering people individual advent calendars so that they've all got something to open. You know, we can't do Secret Santa this year. We're too big. You know, trying to get somebody to go and buy something that isn't blooming in lockdown, you know, from a shop that you can't get from a supermarket and post to somebody. So we decided to do advent calendars, and we're going to do an advent, you know, so it's about ideas like that. It's keeping the motivation going. It's over communicate. You can't over communicate with a team during these times. So, you know, we do weekly updates, you know, Slack, Teams chats, lots of different things going on, but it's to try and keep those energy levels up. And, you know, and it's to laugh at yourself. I mean, I laugh at myself every single day. You know, most of what business talk is ridiculous. You know, it's kind of, you hear yourself coming out with some of this corporate nonsense and you're like, where did that sentence even come from? You know? What I'm trying to say is this: do more of this and stop doing that, because that's idiotic. You know. Oh yeah, words of wisdom. Communicate more, but, you know, get your messaging straight.
So the name of the company, Verb Scottish Northern England dialect. Explain that to us.
Iken comes from I know, so knowledge management.
Is that hold on, is that just I can?
Iken, yeah.
No, I mean as in I can do it. Is it just a way of saying I can?
I know. So that's where it comes from, the verb to know.
Right. Beyond our ken.
But beyond our ken. So ken, knowledge, knowledge management platform, tree of knowledge.
Bingo.
That is pretty impressive. I think that's the best explanation we've had yet, Tanya, of when someone's name come from. Most of it is because the .com was available, and I kind of pretty impressed with that. There's actually some thought, and the logo, the tree of knowledge. Yeah, that is good going. I like that. And then I guess my final question, your absolute top tip for either somebody in a position of it like yourself, or again somebody sort of in a smaller business wanting to kind of emulate the success and the growth and the sustainability that you guys have had. If you had to kind of bundle all of your years of experience up into one absolute sort of piece of golden advice, what would that be? Put you on the spot.
I would say dream big, but break it down into manageable chunks. You know, that agile way of working is really good. Have a small plan. If you've got a big 2-year plan, you know, you're setting yourself up for a lot of failure. So what do we want to achieve between now and Christmas? What do we want to achieve quarter by quarter? When you're small, you know, that's how you, and that's really as far as you can really plan properly in a business as well, especially in unpredictable times, is quarter by quarter. Set yourself smaller targets with a view that, you know, you've got your big one, you know, you've got to maybe report into your shareholders, but keeping those sort of shorter targets in play really does help you achieve what you need to achieve.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you very much. Anything else from you, Chad?
No, just really pleasure having you on our podcast, Tanya. It's been great. It's been great to talk to someone who's in an organisation that's seen that growth and have been, you know, very, very profitable and very successful. And I think a lot of the founders of businesses setting out now are going to look at that and go, you know, we kind of really want to model it to what Iken have been doing. You know, it's a great journey to be on. But what I like about it is it probably looked nothing like it did right at the beginning to what it is now, because you've pivot, you've responded to the market, you've evolved in the way that the market evolves, and that's really important, I think.
Yeah, and I think I've really enjoyed just listening to you about the culture and the values part, because I know, like I said, that's something that you guys talk a lot about, but I think you got it right. I mean, like I said, everyone I speak to, whether it be you or some of the junior people in the business, everyone buys into it and everyone believes it. And even everyone that comes into contact with Iken sort of feels that and gets it from an hour's conversation. So I was really intrigued to see how you guys do it, because like I said, it's that's one of the big questions people kind of struggle to get right, really. So appreciate all of that insight, Tanya. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, both of you. Lovely to speak with you on a Friday.